It looks like we do have someone who would like to talk to us. Jonathan from Florida would like to talk about traditions as superstition. So, hello, Jonathan. Great name,
Apparently
by
we
the
will.
way. That's my name as well. You're on with John and Erin. So, what have you got to say about traditions and superstition?
Well, I spent about a 12-year career in the Navy, and the Navy's got a lot of traditions to it. And I was just thinking, some of them go way back, like shellback initiations, blue nose initiations are just things you go through and you get a little moniker. And so I was just wondering, at some point, can those kind of evolve? I was thinking they probably evolve into superstitions. Sailors, of course, were a very superstitious lot back in the day. Nowadays, not so much. That's why I was wondering, because I didn't really have a lot of superstitions back then. I was not an atheist at that time, but I was leaning that way, even that was 35 years ago. So it was a little different, So
Right.
I was just wondering what you guys thought about like any superstitions that you know about and how they might have gotten started.
Oh, that's an
Just
interesting one.
suppositions. You don't have to have the facts.
Right, sure. I mean, like I was saying earlier about this weird British drain cover thing that people for some reason don't want to walk over three drain covers in the UK, and they're set up where they've got this line of break, so you can see a definite three separate drain covers. For some reason, they nobody wants to walk over them. I always was told that it was a my school friends told me you can't walk over three. So I was told by my peers not to do it. And I have no idea why that became a thing. Maybe they were told by their peers. It's just somebody someday makes up something and it gets passed on, maybe as some kind of weird tradition. You get school traditions that people pass on because one person one time made it up. We all have to skip school this day. And now isn't there like a skip day in America that they do when I don't know, at some point, senior
Oh,
skip
that
day or
sounds
something.
Oh,
yeah, I think it's something that, like, seniors do in, like,
Yeah,
grade
but
12 or something. Yeah,
did
it's
that
like
just
a
once become like some kids went, "Oh, let's do this thing," and then all of a sudden this weird thing became tradition. If you don't do it, then you're gonna fail your classes, or if you do go to school on this day and we've all skipped, then you're gonna get us in trouble. I don't know. Maybe they do just start because somebody one day went, "Huh, let's give some rhyme and reason to this one thing and pass that on."
yeah, I was thinking of
senior
Sadie
senior
Hawkins'
skip
day.
day, yeah.
Yeah. On what day?
It's called senior skip day, I think.
Senior skip day. Yeah.
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 Um, to answer the question, like, I think there has been a little bit of, like, research kinda done into this, like, the idea of, like, how superstitions evolve, and there is, like, pretty, like, common mechanism that we go through as humans and, like, the way that our minds work, and it's just the, misattribution of cause and effect, honestly. It's like, it starts with one person kinda having a misinterpretation of what is the cause of something or, like, causation and, uh effect on anything, honestly, and then whether that person is effective or not in convincing other people, it can spread. I mean, we know that people can spread false ideas depending on how charismatic they are and how convincing and how sincere they are with their beliefs. So you get a small group of people and we talk about like societies and how small communities used to be, and then you get onto bigger communities, and then you add consumerism and commercialism onto it. Now we have superstition spread on a commercial a commercial size. So I think the mechanism itself is pretty straightforward, just a misattribution from causation and causality, and then you add that years and years and years, and then tradition also can, those things have a line to them. I do think there's a difference between them. I know that, like, my family, like, we have traditions that we do. The reason we do them is not because we think something's bad's going to happen if we don't. We do it because it feels good and it brings about these feelings of nostalgia, and it brings about, closeness with your family or whatever. And other traditions, I think there can be a clean line between whether it's just a tradition and nothing bad will happen, but you just like it. And whether you think it's like an actual superstition where it has to be done, or a false, this false or negative outcome will happen because of
Right.
it. So it's just a small kind of explainable a mechanism that happens psychologically for humans on a bigger scale.
And we're pattern finding animals, and we need to
Yeah.
explain things certain ways anyway. So it would make sense that if something happened because somebody did something once, and they go, "Oh, we'll
Yeah.
just use that as the attribution," then we'll say that we have to do this from now on,
When
and
you think
good
about
things will.
you think about how quickly that can spread. One person
Sure.
has an experience, they
Right.
misattribute the cause for that, the thing that happened.
Right.
They tell one person, and by coincidence, that happens to that person too. Now you have two people it happened to.
Right.
How quickly is that belief going to spread?
Absolutely. And maybe
Right?
that's why whistling in a theater is a bad thing, because somebody
Yeah.
once tripped over after they whistled, and
It
now
is
I'm.
it is very, very fun, a fun endeavor to look back on even the most minuscule kind of tradition that we have, to look back on where that started, and sometimes
Right.
it's absolutely hilarious where it
Yeah.
started from,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
there are ways to find all this stuff out as well. So we should.
Most of them. Sometimes we don't know. Like
No, right.
we don't know why they used to, we know why they used to put like bells on at grave sites or whatever, because
Right.
once upon a time someone was buried and they were actually alive or something, right? Like we have some stories to the roots of these, but most people go about in their life and they function with these false beliefs and they have no idea where it started
Right.
from. And that's
Right.
kind of the fun part, I would say, of like deconstructing things, is to like discover this stuff and then be able to be like, oh, that's actually kind of silly. I'm not going to
Yeah.
hold on to that.
Or you go, "Oh, that's kind of silly. I kind of like it. I'm going to stick with it."
It's kind of silly. It's kind of silly, but it's also super fun. So we're going to keep
Yeah, right.
doing it.
Have you got any superstitions that you still uphold even though you're a non-believer, Jonathan?
Not really. I mean, there is an old one in the Navy, but kind of goes both ways as I've heard it. But it's seeing the green flash,
The
and
green
that's
flash.
when the sun is setting and it just goes just below the horizon. You'll see a little flash of green light. It has to do with the refraction and that sort of thing. And but it's a superstitious that if you see the green flash, you're going to have a safe journey. So it's just one of those things. And then there's the opposite of that, where some people believe that if you saw the green flash, it meant catastrophe. So who started it? Well, I guess one guy had a bad day and the other guy didn't. I don't know.
Sure. And
There's a lot of those.
Just because you're talking about the sun, it just made me remember the saying that shepherds had: "Red sky at night, shepherd's delight, and red sky in the morning, shepherd's warning. Meat and potatoes, shepherd's."
Yeah, that's a sailor. They just replace it with sailor, and they use that.
Yeah,
a lot.
it was
There you go.
sailor. It was
Yeah.
sailor when I grew up too.
There you go. That's great.
See, these things change depending on the culture and the word of mouth and the what's going on. So
What I'd like to see is when we smash a mirror, you get 7 years good luck. That's what. Yeah,
right.
I might try that one.
So we could just create our.
Yeah, there'd be a lot less mirrors around, I guess.
Oh, well, maybe.
Yeah. Well, maybe that
with
would
this
be good.
case-
Maybe
with
that
this
would help
case.
with like all the body dysmorphia that we have in
Right.
society. But we can just create our own. That's my question that I always come back to, is like, why are so many superstitions so negative, right?
Right.
Like, why can't we have more of these positive ones? But
yeah.
I mean that makes sense too. Like
Have
humans
positive
are-
ones and make it part of our in group. You see,
Right.
because the traditions obviously are there to help form cohesion amongst a group an awful lot of times, and so we could start our own. Let's think of some good positive superstitions.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it does make sense. Like humans are usually kind of risk averse. We're looking for how to like avoid negative outcomes with things. So it does make sense to me why, like on an evolutionary biology kind of, or evolutionary psychology like filter, that we're looking and seeing why so many superstitions are negative, but kind of sucks.
Right.
There are like a lot of negative ones out there. So let's work on making some new better ones with realistic outcomes.
Right. When we come back next time, if we co-host a show again, we'll come up with a list of positive superstitions that we can spread around the
Maybe
world.
like, if you hug somebody, you might feel better. That's not even a
right.
superstition. That's
No,
probably
right.
very true.
It releases endorphins.
Let's base them on science and
Right.
reality.
No, yeah, that's a really good idea.
There you go.
Well, thanks, Jonathan.
Yeah, I think it'd be great.
Yeah, we'll work on this. But we appreciate you calling. Thank you very much. Traditions
you're
and
welcome.
superstitions, we need to make some more positive make this more positive as we move forward as a
Right.
society. Thank you,
Yeah.
Jonathan.
I think too, as we move away, like, and we have a better, more scientific understanding of the world, like we have more understanding of why things
Right,
happen, which is part, obviously,
right,
why we have less, there's less reason to be superstitious about things. But I mean, so many of these things, that superstitions, traditions, they come out of an era when
right,
humans and societies, we had no idea what the hell was going on, and we were trying to make sense of it. And the best way that you could keep your kids safe and keep people safe was to like instill these superstitious ideas in them, right? Like, yeah, you don't touch that, otherwise something's going to get you at nighttime.
yeah,
But
right,
in reality, we didn't know why that when you touch that thing, it actually is really bad because it spreads contaminants to you or
right,
whatever. So I mean, the more we understand about these things and like have a better understanding of how the world works, the more we can, let go of these things that were keeping us safe maybe at one point,
right,
and just kind of, look back at it as part of our history of like how humans evolved into a more rational era.
right.
Yeah.
I like that. I like it.
Yeah.